everybody, I'm Mr. Ligman, and I'm here to talk to you guys today about tires. So we have a car over in the shop here. We safely racked it, raised it, and pulled all the wheels off. And we have determined that this vehicle needs new tires. So you can see the tread is worn down to minimum thickness. It's even with the wear bar here. And when we look at this tire, on the sidewall, a lot of dry rotting, sign of age. And if we look at the DOT number, the last 4 digits here are telling us that this was produced in the first week of 2016. So this is just over a 5-year-old tire. So it all adds up, it makes sense, time for new tires. So we have some new tires here. We got a set of new tires, and the first thing we want to do is check out the new tires, make sure we got the right ones. They come with an information sticker here with the size, load and speed rating on them, and we want to make sure that these match up, that they're the right tires for the car. And when we look at the new tire, we can see several markings, some of these little nubs from production, some paint markings and chalk markings on the side and on the tread. But we also want to look and see, are these rotational? Are they directional? Do they need to be mounted in a certain way? And these are not. So these can be mounted any which way on the rim. So that's going to be our next step. And in order to remove and replace a tire, we need to use a tire machine. All the schools in District 211 have a very similar machine. It's a rim clamp machine, just styled like this. And it's got several pieces that you're going to be using. First of all, this swing arm should move nice and freely. It's got a lock here. We'll show you how to adjust that. The turntable here, which has clamps for mounting the rim to the machine, and then it has a rotation for rotating the turntable. And then we've got a bead breaker here, or a bead loosener, and on this machine, the switch for operating it is right on the handhold here. We also have an iron bar here that we're going to be using for dismounting the tire. And in certain cases, if you have low profile tires that are very difficult to mount and dismount, you're going to need to use this arm, but we're not going to need that for today. So we'll just leave this out of the way. We also have on this side an air hose and another pedal, and this is for checking. There's a gauge up here as well for checking, adding pressure. Okay? When we're done mounting the tire, we want to make sure that the pressure is correct. So I'm going to start by, first step is, let's let the air out of this tire. So the fastest way is use a core tool here. So this core tool has a little slot in the end, and that is going to allow us to take out the valve core. So when we remove the cap, just like on your bike tire, you're going to see this valve stem has a little valve core in there. We could sit here all day long and push on this and let the air out slowly, but instead we're going to unscrew the valve core. Now any car 2008 or newer has a TPMS sensor behind here, and sometimes these can corrode. So you should be able to, with light finger pressure, you should be able to unscrew this. If it doesn't feel like it's coming, it may be corroded in there and you could break it. So just ask your instructor what to do. Number one, I can look for wheel weights. There is no lip on the outside of this rim, so there's no wheel weights on the outside. Spin it around, and you're going to see we have 2 different types of wheel weights. I'm going to remove the slap-on weight and the tape weight so that it doesn't get caught on the machine and do any damage to the wheel. So I'm going to use a scraper here, and I'm just going to scrape off. These are stuck on there usually with a double-sided sticky tape. So I'm going to get those wheel weights off, and be careful not to scratch the wheel, but you're going to see underneath there it's clean metal, so they've been on there for quite a while, or aluminum I should say. So we take that sticky weight off, and then these are a little bit more challenging. We have a special weight hammer here, and this claw is the removal tool. On the back of that weight is a tiny little hole that fits into. So what I need to do is sneak this in here. I need to squeeze it really tight, and I need to rock it forward. There you go. Now, that pulls the wheel weight off, okay? So this is a heavy metal, or sometimes the older ones are lead, that allows us to balance this assembly. We're going to take this off. All right. Now that those are removed, we're ready to start removing the tire from the wheel. And in order to do that, we need to separate the bead from the rim. So this is the bead section of the tire. We have a bead breaker here. We take this here, and we don't want this to be on the rim, just inside of it. And I'm going to hit the button, and I'm going to separate the tire. Okay, it takes a lot of force, and it'll separate the tire. And sometimes you need to rotate it a little and hit the other side. Okay, once that's fully separated, I can spin this around and go to the other side. Now for this case, I do not want my spoon here to interfere with the valve stem, because remember, behind here is a sensor. So I can go close to it, but not right in line with it. So I'm going to go here, and I separate the outside bead. Okay? Now I need to get the other side. So again, away from the valve stem, separate the bead. Okay, so you can see this is separated on the rim. Now guys, these assemblies can be heavy. Save your back, lift with your legs, and you want to get this up onto the turntable. So now that I have this setting on the turntable, I can simply hit the pedal and release it. And I can clamp this assembly to the machine. So this tire is old, the rubber is kind of dried out and it's a little stiff. So I'm going to make sure it's separated all the way around, and then I'm going to set my swing arm here. So I'm going to bring this in, and if you look at this, this is called the duck head because it looks like a duck head. Imagine that, right?
Quack, quack.
So I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to push down, and I'm going to hold down on this while I lock it. And you're going to see when I lock it, it raises it up just a little bit so I don't scratch the surface. Yeah, so you see that again. I loosen it, and when I lock it, it raises it just a little bit so I don't scratch the surface. Now over on the side of the arm, I have an adjustment knob, and the same concept. I want to touch the rim, and then I want to give it about a half of a turn to push that head away, just enough so that it's not dragging on the surface of this rim and scratching up the clear coat or damaging it, okay? So now the machine is set. Last step that's really important, any tire and wheel assembly with a sensor in it, you need to line this up with the arm to remove the tire, and to install a new tire, it needs to be opposite of the arm. So you're gonna hear me say that a lot today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, rotate the machine so the stem is lined up with the arm, okay? Just behind the duck head here, right? So that's in a safe spot. I'm gonna grab my bar. I'm gonna push down and get behind the bead of this tire with the end of my bar. And I'm over the duck bill right here, right? So that's on the duck head, right? It's lined up just in that space. Now I need to come over here and push down. When I push down over here, it allows me to pull up over here. Okay? So I pull the bead of the tire over the duck bill. And you notice it didn't take a ton of pressure. Okay? Now I go ahead, rotate the tire. And it's off. The top bead comes off easier. I need to rotate the stem back around to the arm. Okay, now I lift up on the back and put the bar underneath the bottom bead, and then I need to get this up and over the duck head again, and you notice I am not interfering with that sensor, so I'm not going to break it. If you have it in the wrong position, it'll catch that sensor and snap it right off. And now I rotate. Okay guys, now that is how you successfully remove an old tire. Okay guys, so you can see we successfully removed the old tire. On the bead of the tire and on the wheel, you can see signs of corrosion. Excuse me. So we need to clean this off, because if we put a new tire on this, this is going to cause leaks. This is what causes a rim leak. All right, so we're going to take this old tire, get it out of the way, and now all we need to use is a die grinder with a wire wheel on it, or you can even use a wire brush if you don't have one of these. And we're going to get down to the clean surface of the rim. do that all the way around the wheel. All right guys, so you can see I cleaned both the outer and the inner beads all the way around the rim to get rid of that corrosion. Okay, so the next step is to prevent corrosion in the future and at least slow it down. We've got some bead sealer. So this is like a liquid rubberized kind of solution here that we're going to put right on that bead section of the wheel. And as we brush this on, it will dry and kind of coat that material so that it won't allow corrosion. Okay, so I finished applying bead sealer all the way around both the top and the bottom section of the bead where the tire will sit. So that's going to slow down and prevent corrosion. And now we are ready to mount up the new tire. So once again, you're going to double check that it's not a directional or rotational tire and there's no markings that indicate inside or outside. So this is ready to go on, but this rubber is very prone to tearing if you don't lubricate it before you try to install it. If you have a short sidewall tire, a lot of times I prefer personally to use this tire paste. All right, it's like a slippery paste that you can brush onto the bead of the tire. Or if it's a taller profile tire like this, you can just use the tire lubricant, which is kind of like soapy water, and we're just gonna make sure to slob this on there, right around that bead section of the tire, and that will allow it to slide on without tearing, as long as you do this correctly, okay? Important steps now. Take the tire, and again, we remember that we want the valve stem to be on the opposite side of where the arm is going to sit. And we take the tire and we lay it across the rim, just like that, which allows us to swing the swing arm in and position it. It should be already set for this wheel on the rim. Now, on the back of the duck head, I want the bead over the back and I want it under the front. So over the back and then under the front. And all I do is simply hold this here and I hit my rotate pedal here, and you're going to see the bottom bead goes on real easy. And it drops right on. Okay? Now, my valve stem needs to go back across to the other side, opposite the swing arm. And now the top bead, it came off easier, but it's harder to get on properly. Same position, over in the back, under in the front. Now, if you look at the design of your rim, you've got a lip here where the tire sits, but then they give you a narrow point in the wheel where it dips down again. You need to force the bead of the tire to go into the narrow point of the rim. That allows the tire to shift over here so it can go over here. Otherwise, it will tear the tire. Okay, a brand new tire, you'll destroy it. So you just gotta push down right here. And if I push on the button just a little bit, it goes slow. If I push on it a lot, it goes fast. So go at your comfort level and push down, and you can see I'm pushing down below that portion of the rim. And if you can't get it or it's a stiff tire, you can use the bar, okay? Or for really low pro and stiffer tires, you use the attachment here. Okay, but for this, we can just do it by hand. And I rotate it on, get my duck head out of the way, and voila. My tire is mounted to the wheel. All right, now, the hard part is done. We want to safely air this thing up. I'm going to rotate the valve stem back. And remember, we took the core out of this thing, so it's going to air up very quickly, and that'll help us expand the tire and seal against the wheel. You don't want any fingers in between here because it'll take them off. So I'm going to hook this up here, and then I'm just simply going to air this tire up. You're going to hear it pop. Okay? And since the next thing we're going to be doing is balancing this assembly, we need to get the proper pressure in this tire because that will impact balance. So I'm going to look at my gauge here. I'm going to get it close. I'm going to put my core back in. And again, you don't need to prove how strong you are. Just 2 fingers, get it tight, all right? Don't try and kill it because you'll strip it out. And then finalize your pressure and make sure it's at the exact pressure that we need. Okay? So I'm going to adjust that right to where it needs to be. And then make sure you don't forget the valve cap.